What we have is basically errors and suspense account question. And this is basically from the recent papers, okay, errors and suspense account. This is the most favorite topic of the examiner. And it's a perfect question to understand from all the parts. Let's get started. This is basically students October, November 2024, paper 2 and variant 3, okay? So what we have is basically the person, Natalie, or something, the person named N, okay? So we prepared her trial balance. She prepared her trial balance at the end of the year, 31st March 2024. So we are preparing the trial balance at 31st March 2024, which means that our year is ending, students, on 31st March 2024. So the year started on 1st April 2023. So the year started on 1st April 2023 and the year ended on 31st March 2024. What we have is simple that the totals did not agree and she had to open a suspense account. The debit side of the trial balance was 357 higher than the credit side. So the debit side was $357 higher than the credit side. So that is an important understanding for the suspense account. Then she discovered some errors. The person discovered some following errors, okay? And there are 5 errors that we have to basically correct. Required is prepare the journal entries to on page number 11. So the next page, basically, that's where we have to prepare journal entries. On page 11 to correct the errors 1 to 5. Narratives are not required, so there is no need for giving explanations. We don't need to give explanations, students. We just need to prepare the journal entries to record to correct the errors 1 to 5. So let's get started on this page. So error number 1, what we have is basically a bank transfer of $420. We have a bank transfer. So a bank transfer was happening of $420. It is received from a credit customer, Sarah. So we have received the person, Natalie, she received the money, the bank transfer from the credit customer, Sarah. It had been correctly recorded. So please understand that we have correctly recorded this in the bank. So bank, it is correctly recorded. So one entry, because we are receiving the money, we have to consider ourselves as the person N. We have received the money, so we must have done bank as the debit and no other entry had been made. So this means, students, that the debit side is recorded, but we didn't record the credit side. It's the money coming in from the customer. Funds are coming from the customer, Sarah. So the transaction should have been that bank should have been debited and Sarah should have been credited. Okay. Money coming into the person's N account. So bank should have been debited and Sarah should have been credited. But because the other entry have not been made, students, it simply means that for error number 1, it's going to be error number 1. Write down the name of the error. Error number 1. We have a simple that, sir, we credit the Sarah. Sarah will be credited because it's a $420 amount Sarah credited. And because the debit side was already recorded correctly, bank was already recorded correctly. So this is definitely an error which is affecting the trial balance. So suspense account will come in, okay? This is an error which is affecting a trial balance. Why, sir? Because therefore suspense account will come in because suspense account comes in when the error affects the trial balance, okay? So that is important that we got suspense 420 debited and Sarah on the credit side credited. That's how error number 1 will be recorded. Reason for this is basically it's an error affecting the trial balance. Why, sir? Because the debit was recorded, but there was nothing recorded on the credit side. So that's why it will definitely impact the trial balance. And when we have an impact on the trial balance, suspense itself comes in. Okay. If any questions, any doubts, please let me know. Moving on to error number 2 is basically the person N or contributed a personal vehicle. So this one is a more tricky one. So the business owner, Natalie, or she contributed a personal vehicle. Okay, so she is contributing a personal vehicle to the business valued at $7,000. Okay, so the a personal vehicle she is bringing in the business. So what this transaction means, first thing you should understand, if you are the business owner, you are bringing your personal vehicle to the business, it means it's an additional capital. Okay, so students need to first realize this thing, that sir, this is basically this meaning is basically that this is additional capital. You have a personal car, you are bringing it to the business purpose for the business use. So that's bringing in additional capital. What happened was this has been debited to the capital account and credited to the vehicle maintenance account. So this is the other part of the transaction. So if you ignore the other part, okay, let's say if you are ignoring this thing, if you are ignoring this thing, students, what should have been recorded? Okay, what should have been recorded is basically when you are bringing in capital, your basic knowledge should be clear that capital is always increase. Okay, capital will always increase because if you are bringing additional capital, capital always increases on the credit side. So the first thing you should judge based on that, sir, capital always increase on the credit side. What they are saying is they have done the opposite of that. Okay, okay, this has been debited. So this had been debited to the capital account. Okay, this had been debited to the capital account. So what we need to understand, the first mistake is basically that they have recorded it completely wrong, and we have to reverse back. They have recorded the capital on the debit side. So we will record the capital on the credit side by double amount. Why, sir, double amount? Always remember, once you have recorded on the wrong side. Once we record on the wrong side, we have to do it twice. Why? Because the first time we cancel the error. Okay, they have recorded on the debit side, so we have to cancel this. First thing will be canceling the debit with the credit side and then recording the additional capital. So it will be, sir, 14,000. The capital will be correct. Got this understanding? How do you go about it? Sir, capital is always credited. Capital always increase on the credit side. So we need to understand, sir, because capital always increase on the credit side, they have recorded on the debit side. So I have to record it. The person, when we are correcting the errors, we have to record on the opposite side, which will be the credit side. But if I record only by 7,000, that is nullifying the error, that is finishing off the error. But the transaction will not be recorded. Let me give you a more practical understanding. What they have done is basically in the capital account, if students need to understand, in the capital account, we have to record on 7,000 on the credit side. But what they have done, the person have recorded on the debit side. Is everyone getting it? The person have recorded on the debit side, that's a mistake. So if you record only one time on the credit side, that only cancels the error. It nullifies the effect 0, 0, balance 0, 0. That's why you have to record it one more time. To this one is to record the transaction, क्योंकि जो आप additional capital लेके आए, whatever the additional capital the person bought, the business owner and bought. So we have to record as well, and this is basically the correction, removing the error. That's why it's the double amount. Got it understood, clear? Understood, getting it? And similarly, because it's the vehicle, the next part of the learning will be that, sir, it's a personal vehicle. So vehicle is a non-current asset. Vehicle are an asset. Asset are always recorded on the debit side. So they haven't record in the asset column. Okay, they haven't record in the asset account. They have credited the vehicle maintenance account, which is basically an expense, right? Vehicle maintenance account will be, sir, an expense, right, students? So vehicle maintenance account will be an expense. That is what we need to understand. That instead of recording an asset, they should have recorded an asset. Instead of recording an asset, they are recording an expense, and that also on the wrong side. So students need to understand that vehicle maintenance account should not exist. Vehicle maintenance account should not exist. So we go back and tell the person that vehicle maintenance account you have credited by mistake. So you take it vehicle maintenance account on the debit side by 7,000. Okay, vehicle maintenance by 7,000, and similarly record the asset, the personal vehicle, as the asset account. So vehicle will be recorded, vehicle as an asset will be recorded on the debit side for $7,000, and that's how the complete error will be corrected. Got it? Anyone with the question and doubt, guys? People got it clear? The vehicle motor vehicle account will be debited because they haven't recorded it. Vehicle maintenance account does not should not exist at all. Vehicle maintenance account should not exist because that's an expense. So the credit thing we have to set it off. So we'll record on the debit side, vehicle maintenance thing, and capital because they have record on the wrong side. So we have to double the amount if we record on the wrong side. Got it clear? That's two errors completed. Okay. So the error number two was the most difficult one, according out of all the five, I think so up till now. Error number one was also a simple one, not much difficulty. Please have a look at error number two and revise it. The examiner can ask again in the next session as well. The next one we have is basically, sir, the purchases of $270 had been correctly entered in the supplier's account. So we need to understand, sir, that purchases of $270 they had been correctly entered in the supplier's account. So always remember that's a hint as well. Okay, that's a hint as well. Okay, if one part is recorded correctly, as you can see, let me make a star here. If one part is correctly recorded, and one part is correctly recorded, it's an indication, students, that it is an error which will affect the trial balance. It will have suspense account. If you look at error number two, it has the problem itself. It was an error not affecting the trial balance. Everyone should have an understanding. The errors that do not affect the trial balance, errors that do not affect the trial balance, which is commission, omission, complete reversal, compensating errors, uh, pair of principle, all of them do not involve, does not involve or do not involve any time suspense account. Errors that do not affect trial balance. So error number two is an example of error which is not affecting the trial balance. Error number two is an example of which is not affecting the trial balance. Why, sir? Because one thing is debited and the other thing is credited. तो अब डजेंट मैटर कि डेबिट क्रेडिट क्या हुआ हो, बट अगर डेबिट साइड भी 7,000 है एंड क्रेडिट साइड भी 7,000 है, तो trial balance will automatically balance, right? So that's the purpose. Okay, we need to understand that error number two is an error that does not affect a trial balance, but error number one will affect the trial balance. Moving on to error number three, as we can clearly see that we have it had been debited. So purchases are always debited. So purchases were debited, and the supplier, the trade payables or the supplier or the creditor was always credited. So the creditor, the trade payable is recorded correctly, but the purchases had been debited. Purchases had been debited as 207 in the purchases account. So this error will affect the trial balance because the credit side is recorded correctly. I repeat my point, students. The credit side was recorded correctly, but the debit side was not recorded correctly. So we have to, this will be an error that is affecting the trial balance. Since purchases were $270 and we have recorded as 207, so it will be, sir, error number three. You go on and try to increase the purchases because purchases increase on the debit side. So whatever the difference is, your calculator will tell. We have basically 270 minus 207, and that is basically $63. Okay, purchases will be 270 minus 207, that will be $63. And then because the credit side was recorded correctly already, the supplier's account, so it what will be coming in, the suspense account will be coming in for $63. Okay, because the credit side was recorded correctly for the suppliers. Moving on to error number four. Now starts the easy one, I believe. Once you have this type of an error, that no entry had been made for general expenses, $126 paid by bank transfer. So that is basically an error of omission. This is an error which do not affect the trial balance. So you just have to do, sir, that it will be error number four. General expenses are always debited. So general expenses will be debited and they are paid by bank transfer, so bank account will be credited, sir. The amount is $126. Okay. Any questions, any doubts, people? Let me know. Is everyone clear? Got it? Understood? Any questions, any doubts? Error number four, error number three, any problem? Any error number one or two? The last one will be, this is called an error of omission as well. Sometimes they ask names as well of the errors. The next one, the last one is basically cash drawings. The business owner did the cash drawings of $200. So cash drawings, as always, drawings are contra to capital. They work against the capital. Drawings always work against the capital. So drawings should have been debited. And because you are taking out money for personal use, you are taking funds out of the drawer for personal use in the cash in hand. So cash should have been credited. So what they have done, students, drawings should have been debited and cash account should have been credited, but they have done the exact opposite. They have debited to the cash account and credited to the drawings account. Okay, so that is called error of complete reversal, when you record debit as credit and the credit transaction as the debit transaction. Students need to understand error number 4 and 5 are also errors that do not affect the trial balance, errors not affecting trial balance, and because they don't affect the trial balance, suspense account will never come in these correcting entries. Okay, suspense account will never come in these correcting entries, the correct errors we are doing. So it's very simple, because when I mention it, when you write them on the opposite sides, you have to double it, because one time you will correct the error. So one time I am correcting the error, and the other time I am recording the transaction. Okay. So it will be, sir, drawings and cash, 200 and 200 makes it 400, 400. I'll repeat it again. Why with the double amount? If I write 200 only, that only cancels out the error. क्योंकि drawings गलत side पे record हुई थी, so we have to cancel both sides and then record it again. That's why it's the double thing. So that's how we get all 10 marks out of the 20 marks. 50% of the question is done. How do you get the journal entries correct for the errors and suspense account? Then the next is very simple. That's why they are reducing the marks now for this thing. You have 3 marks question in which we have to prepare the suspense account, students. Okay, that how do you prepare the suspense account at 31st March 2024? So how do we prepare the suspense account? So the first main thing will be information. All information is relevant from the above side. So if you remember, they said that the debit side was of the trial balance for was 357 higher than the credit side. So that is a tricky thing. Some students can make a mistake here as well in the exam. You have to be careful and smart about it. The debit side is higher than the credit side. So you need to always remember, you put the difference. The difference is basically 357. You have to match the credit side with the debit side. So be careful. You put the difference on the credit side because the debit side was already high. Since the debit side was already higher, and the credit side is lower. So students need to understand, you need to make the credit side match with the debit side. So it will be $357 will be coming on the credit side by writing it down that this is the difference in the trial balance. Okay, so difference in the trial balance. Dates are important at the IGCSE. So difference in the trial balance, that is basically, sir, $357. This is happening at 2024 March 31st. Okay, so happening at the end of the year 2024 March 31st. Just have to copy paste with how many times suspense came. The good thing about this question is you can check yourself whether you have got it correct or not, whether you have got the suspense account correct or not. So suspense account is being debited by 420. So let's put that down. Suspense account being debited by 420 against the Sarah. So against Sarah, we have suspense account being debited by $420. Okay, that's also happening on 2024 and March 31st. Everything, all transactions happen at the end of, when we collect the errors, it happens at the end of the year, Sarah. And then we have suspense here, which is $63 on the credit side, sir, which is against the purchases. So just copy paste that. Date remains the same, March 31st. And if we balance them, 357 plus 63 is 420. Both of them balances. It's itself. There is no, it's a temporary account. So there is no balance brought down, carried down for this thing. You got 420 here, sir. And we got 420 here. That's how we got all 3 marks for suspense account as well. Any questions, any problems, any doubts? The next thing is part C, which is very common these days that they want you to make sure that you know what are the types of errors. So as we talked about, complete the table by identifying the type of errors that occurred in errors 4 and 5. Make sure, be very careful that you only have to go for error number 4 and 5. So error number 4, because no entry was made, it's an error of omission. And error number 5, because the debit was recorded on the credit side and credit was recorded on the debit side, it's an error of complete reversal. So you can just write down it is this one is omission, students, and this one is complete reversal. That is basically debit. These are the names of them. If you write down these two names, you get full marks. If anything you misses out, it's either 1 or 0 for these type of questions. Okay. And the last part is basically a lot of time they ask this, what will be the effect of these errors on the profit for the year? Okay. So complete the table. We have to complete the table, students, by placing a tick in the appropriate column to indicate the effect on the profit for the year after correcting each of the errors. So so this is bold as well. Be careful about it. Once you have corrected the errors, once we have done the correction of the errors, you have to place a tick that error number 1, whether it will increase the profit or decrease the profit, or there will be no effect. So we have to talk about this as well. What will be the effect on the profit for all these errors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whether it will increase the profit, decrease the profit, or there will be no effect. So couple of techniques are there, couple of smart moves you can do whenever this type of question comes. If you get this type of question, students, where you have to correct the profit, like correcting each of the error, what's the effect on the profit? So try to understand, please understand here that profit is only affected by the income statement items. Okay. Always remember, profit is the profit for the year will only be affected, will only have an effect because of the expenses or the income. Only the income statement items, which is also called statement of profit and loss. Now, there is no effect of the error. There is no effect of the error if it involves assets, liabilities, or capital. If it involves assets, liabilities, and capital, there is no effect of the error. So better to do it from here only, better to do it from part A. That's why part A is more important, that you spend time on part A when you have to correct the errors. And that's why they ask again and again in every paper, every year, this question, because they know if the students get part A correct, they can easily get the remaining part correct. Okay. The most difficult thing is to get the correct errors correct. Okay. The journal entries, the most difficult thing is to get the journal entries correct. If you get all of them correct, just like I have done it now for you guys. So what we need to understand the errors of effect of the profit, and everything will work out itself. So always remember, you can write down suspense does not have an effect. Okay. Suspense will never have an effect. Okay. Suspense never have an effect. And as we talked about, Sarah is basically a customer. Sarah is an asset. It's a debtor. So as I mentioned, debtors are asset. So error number 1 will have no effect at all because it's about the customer. Customer is being reduced. Customer being reduced. If it was talking about assets, okay, what will be the effect on the assets? Definitely, is being reduced, so the assets will decrease. But because they are asking the effect on profit, so there is no effect, students. Error number 1, you put the tick mark over here. That error number 1 will have no effect. Okay. So what about error number 2? Let's have a discussion on error number 2 as well. So if you start with this capital, I already clearly mentioned, you can take the notes as well. Capital will not be affected. Okay. So capital for the profit, effect on the profit for the year, capital is not affected. Because we add profit in the capital later on, but currently profit, this will not be affected. Okay. So the capital will not affect the profit because it's only the income statement items that will affect it. Is everyone getting it? Following? So what we need to understand, this is an asset, vehicle is an asset. So assets does not affect the profit. But here we have vehicle maintenance. So vehicle maintenance, as we talked about, is an expense. And now because we are recording it on the debit side, vehicle maintenance, we are recording on the debit side. So vehicle maintenance is an expense, and if expenses are recorded on the debit side, if expenses are increasing, it's the common nature of the businesses, it's the practical life scenario. If your expenses are increasing, your profits will go down. So it will be, sir, error number two will have a decrease of $7,000. Okay. Is everyone getting it? Students clear with me? Following people got it? Got this clear? Understood? Any questions? Any issues? The next one is purchases and suspense accounts. So suspense does not have an impact, but purchases are part of the income statement. So again, purchases are being debited, which means that we increase the purchases. Once we are increasing the purchases, profit for the year will definitely go down. So profit will decrease as well for error number three. Understood? Got it? Fourth one is very simple. General expenses are coming on the debit side. Anything related to you can make a general assumption as well. You can make an assumption for your learning purpose as well. Anything related to income statement, just like vehicle maintenance, purchases, general expenses, anything which is related to the income statement, if it comes on the debit side, it will always reduce the profit for the year because incomes always comes on the credit side. So if there's any discount received, commission received, rent received, or revenue increasing, if the commission received, if the incomes are increasing, profit will increase. If the expenses are increasing, profit will reduce. And that's an example. General expenses will be increasing, so profit will reduce as well again. And for error number five, as I mentioned, cash is an asset and drawings is the contra to capital. These do not come in the income statement. The both of these items never come in the income statement. Hence, the last one will also be no effect on the profit. Understanding, getting it? So there will be no effect on the profit. Is everyone clear? Got it? That's how we got all 20 marks for this errors and suspense account. Hope everyone got it. Make sure to practice more of errors and suspense account. Any questions can be asked. We'll continue from here in the next session. Thank you. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.